on. Wait, this is too bright. Let me take you all, guys, with me to a journey. No, that's saying too much. It's just me. Um, Welcome to another episode of the Conversations with me, Carlz. The only show, as far as I know, where basically I take whatever I said last week in Spanish, but I do it now back in English, trying to maybe rethink or reach new horizons with the previous episodes ideas. Though in this case, I don't know how possible that is. So let's dive straight into it. Well, last week I did something that I wanted to do not for a long time, but I seriously wanted to do it since the whole, like, how can you say, the issues and all the problems with the movie became apparent. So for people that is not watching the thumbnail which I'm speaking from, the movie in question is Snow White, the latest Disney live action adaptation from one of the animated classics from, like, God knows how old, right? Like the 60s or whatever. Which I've seen plenty of times. But I don't think this movie needs any further introduction, right? So the movie was supposed to be so bad, so bad, that the curiosity in me just kept growing and growing and growing, and I felt like I had to see it. I had to. Like, I'm not particularly uh like a very demanding person. Like, I do like sometimes dumb or, like, for any other people's standards, like crappy movies, even though you can change opinions in that too. But this movie was so bad that the curiosity took the best of me, and I felt like I needed to watch it. So when it came out on digital, I did it and I went straight into it. And okay, I'm gonna go through, like, some general ideas or sensations I had from the movie. So from the beginning, one of the curious things that I have in my mind, or something that I was expecting to see in the movie, was related particularly to the fact that, knowing that this was going to be some sort of updated version of it, right? One of the main things that I had is, like, how are they gonna update it? So, to make a long story short, the movie itself, the updating of the concept of Snow White, is what makes or breaks the movie. In this case, breaks it, right? So, on a nutshell, or in a nutshell, yeah, it's inside the nutshell, no, not on it, right? In a nutshell, what they did was sort of changing the whole character of Snow White, right? From this really innocent, like, princess type that didn't know shit, like, she didn't know anything about nothing, right? And she has this strange, weird adventure where, like, she gets true love just because she deserves it. Like, who cares, right? That's not the point. The point is that the movie 2015, right? No, 2025, 2015. So Snow White 2025 begins immediately by updating this and giving the characters more context and, like, more depth, right? And as the movie began, I was like, that's okay. That's okay. Like, how can you make these fable characters into something relatable or something real, right? Let's give him some background, or them some background. Like, give them some motivation, give them, like, circumstances, family, friends, right? So I was all down for that. But the way they chose to give Snow White character is rather ironic, because even though they're giving her a backstory, this backstory could be, like, even further from what it's can even be considered original, right? So in the new Snow White, they built her a family, a mom, a dad, and they made a conflict between her parents and the evil witch, right? So the evil witch is not evil because she is, right? Like in a fable, she's just the bad character, the antagonist. In Snow White 2025, she's the bad character or antagonist because she played Snow White's family, right? After her mom dies, she sort of swindles her way into the kingdom, like then fools the king, and well, whatever the case, let's see it in a more like a practical way, right? So let's give her a motivation to be something, right? What could she be? She's already a princess. She's already perfect, right? If I give her like a process or or a context for her to build into a character, I kept thinking throughout the whole movie, what is she going to become, right? Or what is she going to be? And that is the first big issue. Character development in this movie works in an ironic way. And what do I mean by that? Even though it's called character development, it doesn't develop into anything. Snow White is like almost annoyingly perfect in this movie. And perfect not like as a perfect person, and of course I'm not talking about her looks. I'm talking about like every time she opens her mouth, the character is so poorly written that you immediately knows whatever she's gonna say. Like honestly, there's no space for any interpretation or like any development of feelings, or I don't know, like how can you have a conflict without any motivation? So from the first minute, or from like the first time she opens her mouth, she's like, oh yeah, I'm like fair, I have justice and everything. And you could say like, well, but that was the idea of the original, that was the idea of a fable, like he was the fairest of the kingdom, right? She was the fairest, and that in sort of like a metaphysical way of like she being so innocent that whatever, right? So in the end, this creates a really strong like dissonance or paradox. At least in my mind, it did. Like she's no longer innocent, but she's this personification of values of like fairness and justice and everything. And what is the injustice she's fighting against? Is like, what is it? So it seems like the queen, the evil queen, like had her dad killed, right? And after that, she turned everyone in the kingdom into like soldiers. Like, to be honest, there's not a really palpable issue with what she's doing. We gotta be honest, right? She Snow White seems to be fighting against like a general oppression. Like I don't wanna just say it, but like I might as well. Like she wants everybody to live in this sort of like utopia socialist kingdom. Like it's a really funny way because she goes like, oh, like you were this is by the end of the movie, of course, as if everybody knows, this is a full spoiler full conversation. By the end of the movie, she goes like, everybody in the kingdom played a role in the kingdom, and they were like happy and content playing that role in the kingdom. Like you were a janitor, you unclogged toilets, and you were happy doing it, like your father did it. And like, how about you? You used to pick up dog shit, like that was your role, and you were happy doing it. But then the queen forced everybody to be like like a military state. So in the end, what is the point of of this whole idea, this whole of paradox of added elements to the Snow White lore in general? Uh, Wait, there's an ambulance going by my room, just in case anybody hears this later, right? Like the slowest ambulance on earth. Come on, man. But anyways, what is the issue with this paradox? And this is something that has not changed from my Spanish version to this one. Is that this paradox effectively kills the character of Snow White, right? Like you can't be an innocent princess facing injustice and like standing up to injustice and like still pretend to be pure. So there's a weird element there because in the original Snow White was just dumb, right? Like she was like, oh, I'm dumb, I'm so innocent, ah, haha, like I play with dwarfs and animals speak to me and then some dude kiss me and everything's over, right? But adding these elements to the new Snow White doesn't really work because she tries to be both things at once. She tries to be like a pure justice, like sort of fairness representation, at the same time that she tries to be this complex character dealing with uh, the issues with her parents being killed and like the unfair nature of this new kingdom. You see, it's something that doesn't work and just makes for a really, really boring character. Like Snow White is so boring because whenever she says something, you know exactly what she's going to say, and it's this like this really annoying uh like what is that word when you treat something like they're dumb, right? Like condescending. This condescending tone, like she's always gonna do the right thing. And when you start putting different characters around her, this gets even worse because they try to do similar thing with so many of these characters. And like the main issue that keeps repeating among them is that all these added elements are so stereotypical, are like so traditional, they are almost like AI generated tropes. So let's turn the love interest into this like Robin Hood type, right? Like he steals for the poor. Like, okay. So how do you go from like a generic prince that is just a prince just because to this generic thief good guy that is just the thief good guy just because? I hope that everyone that listens to this sees my point. It's like there's no point in renewing something old with something new but stereotypical. Like none of these characters had anything added, and it's baffling in a sense because I'm not a writer, even though I might try someday. But I did write something, but okay, that's beyond the point. These are professional writers, and they are writing the most mundane, boring, generic things. And I think the movie, it's not that Disney makes bad things, it's that Disney doesn't make an effort to do different things, right? Even in the music sense for the movie, because this is still a musical, right? It was funny to think like you're watching this movie, or any Disney movie for that matter, right? And you're basically waiting for all these cue. Come on, ambulance. You're just waiting for these cue songs that belong to a Disney movie. What I don't know if I would coin the term, but I haven't heard it before. Like what I like to call the "Let It Go" moment. Like everybody knows it. Like if I say "Let It Go," everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? And when it comes in the movie, it feels hollow, hollow and shallow. It's like something that has to be there. And the Ziegler, like the actress, like she doesn't sing bad, and she's not a bad actress or actor, but they gave her the most boring lines to read and like the most stereotypical songs to sing. So you see, like being character based, having all of the characters in your mind from the old ones. I haven't read the original stories though, so don't at me with like the original story is way darker. Like that doesn't mean anything to me, right? So every character, like the huntsman is right. Like in the original, he just goes. He's supposed to kill Snow White, and he doesn't do it because she's innocent. Why would I kill an innocent person, right? But here they had to make a character out of him. Why? What do you do with this character? In this version, he later appears by at the climax of the movie, and like he was in prison, and like, why? Why would you expand characters that have no use? So let's go to the dwarves, right? I love dwarves. Like, I'm a Tolkien fan. Like, I love dwarves. And let's not talk about how they look. Let's just talk about who they are, right? In the original, they were just representation of emotion or like general states, like droopy and everything. Okay. So what do we do now? How do we update them? Here something also fun happens, right? There are 7 of them. And they're not gonna update all of them. Okay? Let's not update all of them. How do we do it? They choose to focus on Droopy's in time, right? Like the. So let's make it so Droopy is like that because he's like he feels like overwhelmed by society, like he has some degree of like, I don't know, some autism or something, like I don't know, like this might be even more triggering to me than anything they did with the other characters. Like, let's make a conflict out of fucking Doopy or whatever, right? Whatever his name is. Let's make a thing out of it. This was so triggering because they changed the character completely. He was Droopy because he was just as innocent as Snow White. Like, he didn't need to be cunning or anything. He was just a dude that he enjoyed living with his brothers, cousins, I don't know what the fuck they are, right? And that story arc they gave them, like, why? Why is this there? Why do we need a Droopy story of like accomplishment? It's so freaky. So in the end, Droopy's story of accomplishment sort of replaces the whole dwarf story arc, and in the end, they were all sort of like to blame because of his state and his like you can say like disease or like some sort of mental state. They were all like accomplices on it, right? So in the end, he turns off a new leaf, finds his strength, and then now he talks. Like, he defeated his fears and now he talks. But what is the point of this? Like, how does this relate to anything else that's going on in the movie? It seems that this story is there because they are applying, as I said, this sort of AI generated way of updating all tropes. So now he's gonna have issues, right? He has confidence issues, and now he's gonna overcome them. But there's no content in the process. It's not really connected to the main story, because as I said, Snow White doesn't evolve, doesn't change. She's just this annoyingly perfect, but sort of like a condescending perfection, like not an argumental perfection or like a metaphorical or like fantastic perfection. This is just condescending perfection, and she convinces him like, oh, trust yourself, right? And he does, and it feels shallow, and I think that is the common thread in this. The frustration doesn't come only because any lack of originality. The frustration comes from having these tropes thrown to your face and sort of treating you like you're dumb, right? Like you haven't seen them, like in a way, like okay, I'm gonna teach you about, I don't know, the strength of character or like being compassionate. I'm gonna try to teach you this through this movie, but I use the most like shallow way of showing it. This piling up of tropes and repeated Disney formulas it's boring. And the main reason, as I said, I wanted to watch this movie to know whether it was that bad. And I can't call these things necessarily bad. I can't call them necessarily bad because isn't the process which by you sort of update these things. This is the only way you can do it, right? Like adding this sort of concept. But why do the minimum effort for it? So I left this character to the end because it's the one character above everything else. As I said, I can accept the general mechanic of updating all tropes. Okay, they are mediocre, they are boring. Okay, I get it. But I can't accept. I'm not an actor. I'm not part of the academy or anything, but I cannot accept bad acting. And like two ways, right? Bad acting and bad singing. And Gal Gadot in this movie is awful. Like there's one thing that when as I said, I'm not a professional. I'm not like what's his name, like the Fonz in the Barry series. Like I don't have an acting anything. I'm just a regular bald guy. But when you're watching something that is supposed to mean something or like create some sort of sensation in you, and it creates the opposite, you don't have to be a genius to say this is shitty and this is bad. And that is one thing that the Wicked Witch amounts to do. Gal Gadot in this movie, I'm convinced, like 120%, that either they didn't dare to give her right directions, maybe they were trolling her, like for all I know. Like after I watched the movie for my Spanish version, I rewatched some of her scenes, and I'm a million percent convinced that one of the following things happens. They didn't tell her like they didn't give her proper directions. One, two, like they just winged it. Or three, they made the poor decision of making the Wicked Witch like this. And what I mean by this is that the Wicked Witch, this is not the Wicked Witch, right? This is just the evil witch, whatever, the witch, the bad woman. The character jumps so randomly between being serious menacing and being a joke. So this is something that I remember in my Spanish version, and it's the only thing that makes sense to me. It's Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones in Batman and Robin, right? They are supposed to be bad guys, but the direction of the movie is like a campy, like funny movie, right? It's supposed to be like that. So the only thing that makes sense to me is that they gave her that direction. You are the bad character, you are like the evil character, but you are like a fun character. Okay, so in Batman and Robin, a movie which I like, by the way, it makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. That's why they never go into like the dark background of Two-Face, right? Two-Face is a really evil character. They never go to the background so he can just be campy and fun, right? And he's still the bad guy. But Gal Gadot in this movie, she jumps through these phases in such random times that is almost confusing, and it's really awkward to see. There is this one scene where she faces the I don't remember the name of the prince guy. Fuck that guy. I don't remember his name, but like she faces him and she jumps between like trying to be menacing and trying to be like I don't know, like flirty with him or something. It's so strange. It's just bizarre to watch, and what basically does for the character is that you never end up developing any sort of constant reaction to it. Like you're not afraid of it, you are not amused by it, and then you get into the moment where she starts singing, and oh my god! As I said, I'm no Pavarotti, right? But you just know it. Like when something is that bad, you don't have to be Pavarotti, Domingo, or the other guy, right? You don't have to. You don't have to. You listen to it, and it just sounds bad, and it sounds awful. And like there's no way. There's no way. There's no two ways of of listening to it. It's just terrible. And they gave her two songs, so you could even say like, okay, she fucked up in one, but she's gonna try a second time. You got, but she fucked up in both of them, and like as I was watching the witches musical numbers, I remember Wicked, right? So in a good musical, the setting is okay, the set pieces are great, the choreographies are like cool, but in a well accomplished one, so you get to Wicked, and for example, you get a sad song, and the sad song sort of follows through the story, so it's sad, right? And the character is living that emotion, and in every good musical, like let's talk Disney, it makes sense. So, for example, like in animated one in Moana, right? When How Far I'll Go comes up, it's perfect. She's doubting what to do with her life. She's hearing the call of the ocean, and right at that point, she bursts out into song because that's the best way of sort of expressing her emotions, the things she's feeling in that moment, right? How Far I'll Go. But these songs, it's like she's so nothing, the character. She's so random that when she starts singing, she sounds and looks like a mad person. She looks like a mad person, like spouting nonsense. As I said at the beginning, the updated tropes of this movie, they never really work, right? So what are the witches' motivation, right? They are not clear. So in the original, she just was the bad witch, right? Like she was just bad. She wanted to be the fairest, and the whole teaching of the fable is like you don't want to be behaving like that, right? You don't need to fall for jealousy or like to be like mean in that way or like I don't know. But what is her motivation in this one? She still had the mirror and she still go who's the fairest. But like unlike the original, where this was sort of like a poetic way of asking it, like who's the fairest of them all, right? Oh, is Snow White is the fairest of them all, right? You don't need the movie to explain to you what is fair and what is not, right? But in this one, since they dug their own grave, okay, they go like mirror, mirror, who's the fairest of them all, and it's Snow White. Okay, why? Because she always says what she's gotta say. Because she somehow at some point or her on her random perfect life, sort of like wakes up and she goes like, whoa, I think my kingdom is fucked. I should do something. Therefore, I'm the fairest. Like, there's no real conflict. There's no real motivation for either of those characters. So when the witch goes into the I'm bad, sort of like I'm bad song, right? It's just so cringy. Because it wasn't. It's not only that her performance is bad. It's not only that her singing is bad. It's not only that the musical setting on itself is mediocre. It's that there's no really like a follow through what's going on. There's no really build up to that moment. So going back to Disney again, right? I mentioned this before because it's probably one of my favorite musical numbers in Disney history. Like either Hellfire or like Be Prepared, right? And The Lion King and The Hunchback, right? Those settings are perfect. And then you have like you can add like what was Ursula's song's name in Little Mermaid? I don't remember. But they all follow perfectly what their characters were, right? So the pervert on Hunchback, he was this dramatic, really bad character, and the song showed, right? For Scar, he was bad, but he dealt with it with like a sort of like a confidence and like what he was related to the hyenas, right? So he was also sort of like jokey. So Be Prepared is perfect. And in Ursula's case, like she was a little bit more deranged, right? Like The witch on Snow White is closer to Ursula than some others, right? But it's even in the live action though. I gotta make a note of it. I gotta say it. Even in the live action Little Mermaid, Ursula's part is great, and the performance is good too. Like in the musical number also. But this is small. Is like devoid of content. Like the performance is bad. Like everything about it is bad. And like even though you try to sort of deal with the mediocrity in general of the movie, this part is just bad. This part is just bad. And when you reach that point when you see something that is just bad, I gotta mention how the movie looks. Like the obvious comment are the dwarves. And the thing that bothered me most about the dwarves, it's not that they look shitty, it's that there's a fucking real little person in the movie, which I found it to be almost insulting. It's like, how dare you? How dare you, like, go like, no, we can't have 7 little person, or I don't know what is the PC term for it. So I'm just calling it dwarves. So I apologize. So we can't find 7 dwarves. We can't. We can't find 7 of them. We have 1. So we put him in the movie in an added unnecessary role. How is that not an insult? It's like I don't know. I felt it was really insulting. It's like they knew people were gonna go like, why weren't the dwarves real people? Why? And they probably said like, yeah, okay, it's a little bit complicated. So here's one, like like a token dwarf for the movie. I couldn't get over it. I just couldn't get over it. I just couldn't get over the fact that there was a real dwarf in the movie, and at some point they interact, not too much, but they interact amongst themselves, right? Like the real dwarf with the fake dwarfs. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? You can clearly see that the CGI dwarfs, they are not how a real human dwarf should look like. And I'm not saying that they are in the lore or the movie, right? But you can see it. It's like having some sort of like Space Jam moment, like between like fucking Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan. I'm not saying that Bugs Bunny looks like Michael Jordan, but like you can see the contrast between reality and CGI, well, in this case 3D CGI, and you can see it, and it's so triggering too. It's like, why didn't they do it differently? So after my Spanish episode, I kept thinking about some of the visual decisions they did, like the kingdom, for example. The kingdom is so fucking small, which is pretty annoying. Like the castle is so small. The colors in everything that is bad, right? Like if you go back to the original animation, which happened in not only in Snow White, but in everything that had the Wicked Witch and everything. Like they always use these dark greenish, purplish tones, which make everything look great in the evil side. That doesn't happen here. Everything is color coded in a really, really awful, strange way. And like, I don't know the mindset behind it. I really don't. There might be like a real motivation behind it. Might be. But since the movie is so devoid of content and it's so unexplicit, like you don't really get it. Why is the movie like shot at like 5 p.m. throughout the whole movie? Like it always seems like it's on sunset for some reason. And I gotta say, it just takes you out of it. And here I thought something new, like between episodes, right? I always thought that these color palettes for these live action adaptations had to do with the fact of, okay, this is a live action adaptation, but we're gonna make it look like animation. We're gonna like try to save some sort of magic through the use of color editing. But that leads you to the idea of, okay, let's challenge the balance of these things. So let's put a real actor with fake actors, right, with CGI actors, on a half made set, a half CGI background with color corrected stuff, and not color corrected, but like really bright, weird color robes. And let's try to make sense of it. Going back to Wicked, which sort of lets you know that it's a musical. So everything looks like a stage, which is great. Everything looks like a stage because it's a musical, right? Everything looks like a stage. It's supposed to be a stage. You are in that mindset. Even though I've criticized musicals before, I still defend the fact that if you make it feel like a stage, it works. Generally speaking, right? It can be botched as everything else can. But here, like the mix, and it doesn't only happen in this one. It happens on Little Mermaid, and it happened in Jungle Book. I haven't seen what they have like Lady and the Tramp. I haven't seen that one. They had Pinocchio. Did I even watch that? I think I didn't even watch that. Pinocchio, like well, whatever. This decision of creating this visual sort of game between real actors and everything, and like real actors like have made sets with CGI, like this game they're playing is not working. Like, and I won't be the first one to break this to them. Not even close. Not even close. It can't be. It can't be me like having this sort of like a revelation on the shittiness of their product. Like, you just can't be. And the whole thing with it is like it leads you sort of like to the end point of the whole argument, right? Which is basically Disney is just like automatically generating these things under the impression that what they're doing somehow captures this magic from, like, you can say a visual point of view, like somehow you can say it does or it tries to do, right? But they just keep generating these things, and I feel like there are two ways of understanding this. So as I said, I don't think this movie is as terrible as they made it to be. Of course, the internet generation and the internet society in general, if you can call it like that, made like a huge deal of what it was. And I think many of the complaints and like the enraged things that people did, sort of like they're like moot points, right? Doesn't really matter. Like people complain about so many shit, right? That people are used to it. So even though people keep complaining about the same things, Disney still believes that they have this formula, this literal formula on how to do these things, and just poop them out, and they're gonna they're gonna make some money. And this is the part that gets sad, because we knew that no matter how much people would complain about it, no matter how much like the stars in the movie would get into some weird political discussions about like Israel and Palestine out of all things, right? It doesn't matter. Like all of that shit doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is money. And it was so funny and fucked up in a way to see how it wasn't until the movie did bad that Disney went like, yeah, we're gonna rethink our live action like policy. Like we might not do so many of them. And that whole process just like fucked up with my mind, because this is something that you like most of us knew deep down of us, right? Like we know that money talks, and like who walks, I don't care. We know how that's how the world works. We know it, but somehow getting thrown this fact to my face sort of hurt a little bit, because it just tells you that before this they were content by following this formula. So as I was watching the credits of the movie, I was like, these are people that are making millions of dollars by being mediocre. Like they know they are. They know. And I think more than being like angry for the movie, you feel sad for it. Like when the movie says like written by this lady, directed by this guy, special effects like doing by this dude, like a wardrobe like proudly shown in the movie's credits, right? But you watch it, and even though you're not an expert, you know it's mediocre. You know it's borderline in bad. Like, and I don't know if Disney just let it lets it go, lets it go, like in Frozen. I don't know if Disney doesn't care. Like, well, now we know because because the movie bombed, right? But how come before that nobody ever said anything? Like, you see my point? Like, I'm not a particularly like Disney fan or anything, like, or super fan or anything, but I'm the sort of guy that have always believed in like magic, in like the whole Disney's magic thing. That's why I always give it the benefit of a doubt. That's why I always watch this thing. That's why I'm always curious, and that's why I still get moved by a good thing, like a Moana type, right? Like I cried with Moana 1. Like I was in my room back in Japan and just like crying because it was so moving and it was so touching. So I guess a part of me will always have a soft spot for Disney, and I still haven't been taken over by the general internet culture of like just bashing it just because I don't know the actress is not white, or like I don't know because like all of that bullshit, like it just drains your fucking energy, right? Whatever left you have of it, it drains your fucking energy. But sadly enough, so does the movie. So even if the internet's culture society is not gonna drain your movie, the movie will, because it's uninspired, because it's ugly, because it's lazy. And I can't believe millions of dollars were spent, hundreds of jobs were given to release this product. Like, I'm still not gonna say the movie is bad, but I think in even a worse way, the movie is sad. And it's worse because these movies are not supposed to be sad. These movies are supposed to be magical, funny, entertaining. But it's not. No matter what the reasons you give for it, the fact remains. Watching this movie, if like at best it made me cringe. Like at best it made me laugh by Gal Gadot's god awful fucking performance. But at worst it just made me sad. It's made me sad because I'm just watching a company just recreate the same tropes, the same ideas, the same things. And even though they do it to try to encapsulate a magic in a bottle, as they say, right? They are not encapsulating magic in a bottle. They're just making mediocrity soda for you to drink. At least I'm glad I didn't go to the movies to watch this thing. Uh, I guess in a way I'm always gonna be a Disney believer. I am. maybe next time I watch something, I would cry not out of being moved, but out of being so sad and frustrated. And we have Little Stitch coming up. That's the same way I ended my Spanish episode because that's the only way. Like, you can be as jaded and like as, I don't know, hypocritical as you wanted, but like, it's Lilo and Stitch. It was a magic movie. Will they capture that magic in that bottle? Or they would shove us some Mountain Dew, cold, whatever, down our throats and make us sad again? If we are here until that moment, maybe I'll share my thoughts on it with you. But until then, that's my time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting, and like I have some thumbs up, which I love, and some comments. Like I try to make my mic louder. I hope it's enough. And Wish Upon a Star. Wait, that's a different movie. Who cares? If they can fuck it up, I can fuck it up. See you next time.